Hey everybody, my name is Doug Fine and I am the principal at FINED Performance Solutions. And today I'm honored and excited to bring you a conversation and interview with Michael Wade. Michael Wade, welcome to our Defined Engagement podcast today.
It's a pleasure being here.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this for me. You mind if I let our listeners know a little bit about you, your bio, a short bio?
I'm very tempted to say yes.
Yeah, that you would mind, right?
If you could make it as short as possible, though, because I'll probably weave in a bunch of things as we hallucinate.
Yeah. So this is part of Michael's charm, because he's accomplished and he's, I have to say you're one of my heroes, and you have been for many years now. But let me tell you what he wants to say about himself officially. He is the Chief Management Consultant with Execupundit Consulting LLC in Phoenix, Arizona. He's advised a wide array of organizations on leadership, management, ethics, and equal opportunity issues for over 40 years. His thoughts on leadership in life can be found at the Execupundit Execupundit.com blog. And Michael, thank you again for joining me. And you know that we talked about our first round here is going to be kind of rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
And look forward to getting to know you a little better and let our listeners know sort of about your current work and the problems you help organizations solve based on your experience and all that. So let's start with number one, Michael. Who do you work best with, and who are your ideal clients?
I work best with people who are coachable, honest people, because you have some people think they've figured it all out, and I don't think any of us have. But it helps if you have somebody who is genuinely interested in getting better. And for the vast majority of the people I do coaching with, they're already quite good.
Right.
And they need tweaking in some areas. So those people are great. Over time, there have been very few people that I've encountered who are not coachable.
Mm-hmm.
Some are out there.
Uh-huh.
But most people are genuinely interested in improving their job performance. And in fact, I think that's one of the characteristics of effective leadership, and that is a certain amount of humility. And the idea that we don't all have the answers, and so it gets to be a joint exploration with people.
Beautiful way to describe coaching, because the best coaches know that they are being affected by the people that they're coaching in many different ways too. It's an exchange, right?
That's right.
With the people. The title of your consulting firm and your blog is Execu. So most of the men and women you coach are relatively high-level executives?
Well, a number of them are, but I have coached first-line supervisors. I also coach employees on occasion, and so it's pretty much the gamut. And I think that's important, because you can have somebody who's relatively far down in the organization who has enormous impact.
Yeah.
And so that's not only is it good in terms of helping people, but it's also good in terms of helping me, because I think I would worry if I only dealt with executives. You can get trapped. And it's nice to hear how different things are translated as they filter through an organization.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like, Michael, that you get to do sometimes you get to do coaching of people at different levels within the same organization. Is that right? So that's where you really see how things trickle down or are not trickling up, as the case may be. Yeah, right.
And that's one of the advantages of coaching as opposed to training, because many times when you train, you complete a workshop or a series of workshops and people kind of head off into the wilderness. And with coaching, you can keep tabs on the improvement, and that's very rewarding.
do you factor that coaching aspect? Let's say you're doing training. Do you factor the coaching aspect as an add-on to for your clients to consider when they're considering you to come in and
I have
help
done
them?
that. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's important because, as you well know, in your own consulting practice, often people need booster shots.
Yes.
So, they go into a session and they're all pumped up, and then you think, okay, where is this going to be 3 weeks from
I love that term, booster shot. Now, the anti-vaxxer is not going to like it, but
now?
booster shot is really a cool way to put it because they got pumped up. They've been given a lot in a session and learned a lot and practiced some things, and then you're coming along and following up with them. So actually, when I do my engagement magic training, I offer actually like a session or two for the attendees a couple of months out, like 30 days out, and then 2 months out, to get people back together in a format like this, in a Zoom room, and we
Mm-hmm.
talk about that. So I get the follow-up and how important that is. So yeah. So what's the problem that you help them solve? And again, you do different levels of coaching, and you do training too. So why don't you just, if you wouldn't mind, what are some of the tough problems that you help organizations tackle and improve on?
Well, the traditional way I would answer that would be, I'd say I talk about leadership, ethics, and equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But especially over the past few years, what I've noticed is the primary topic is trust.
Wow.
And it's trust not just from the honesty and integrity standpoint, but also from the competence standpoint. So if you're the most honest and decent person out there, you're not going to be trustworthy if you do not have the competence to do what you say you will do. And of course, that's one of the big rules for anyone: do what you say you will do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think an underrated aspect in many a career and in many a workplace is reliability.
Yes.
And we've all known people, they make a commitment and that it's done, it's going to be handled.
Right.
And then you have other people, and you see this too often at the executive level, where they overpromise.
Mm-hmm.
And people get dropped on their heads. And so this entire kind of umbrella of trust covers everything in the workplace. And what I've noticed in working with organizations, if they have employee relations problems and you start peeling away the onion skin layers, at the heart is usually a lack of trust. And I'll tell them, if people trust you, they don't sue you. If people trust you, they don't file complaints against you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of your major roles, in fact, I'd say it's the most important role, is to cultivate a climate of trust.
Wow, fantastic! I totally resonate. That resonates with me. And I actually did an interview back in September with a young man who's the chief culture officer of a pretty high-tech going concern, and it's called 15Five. That's the name of his company, and he's a co-founder. And in our discussion, he talked about, and I'd maybe get your feedback on this. He talks about, we trust people when they arrive on day one. He said it way better than me, but it's like, you don't have to earn our trust from day one. Because if you disappoint us, that will come. But right now, we hired you for this work, so we're presuming that you're going to do it and do it outstanding, and you don't have to earn our trust. You have it right now. What do you think of that concept?
I like that.
Uh-huh.
It's good. It isn't suspicious. There's this presumption that you're going to be a trustworthy team member. And yeah, I think it also ties in with the fact that it can take people years, in many cases, to build up a reputation for trust. and then they can lose it in seconds.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I think his approach is a sound one.
Yeah, yeah. I thought, yeah, that's great. That organizations should do that. If they have confidence in their ability to pick the right people, and we all make mistakes in that, but if they have the ability to pick the right people, why would you make them jump through hoops to earn your trust?
That is a great way of putting it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because if you hire the person, if the person had a question mark, then why did you hire them?
Exactly. So, all right, sir. What's the common? When you talk to me about working with different levels of organizations, some of my questions are, I know you'll manage them. So here we go. What's the common mistake you see that people make when they're trying to solve, let's say, the issue of trust? What are common mistakes that someone might do, either on a lower level of leadership or supervision, or even on an executive level when it comes to trust? Because that's kind of
I think a common mistake is people bring baggage. And when you're dealing with individuals, many times they're not dealing with you, or you are not dealing with them. What is being dealt with is something that took place 10 or 15 years ago at another employer. And so people invariably come in with a certain amount of the baggage, as opposed to, as you noted, starting off with this presumption of trust. But another thing that I noticed that is an issue is this lack of introspection, where people do not check themselves out. I remember I worked for an organization years ago, and I felt like they should put something up in their conference room saying, we're not as bad as some people think we are, but we're not as good as we think we are.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Really, you have to have this humility to say, where are we messing up? What could we do better? And that is key.
I heard a quote just the other day, and I saved it on my phone and all this, Michael. It was on Twitter, of course, and this guy basically said, don't trust. No, he didn't say don't trust, but he says, what is it about CEOs or top leaders of organizations that say we have a great culture? And maybe they do, but what are they doing day by day to maintain it or even develop it? It's almost like they're resting on it. It's sort of a false thing to say, actually, that we have a great culture. Our culture is like on top, it's right in line and we're sailing along. And actually, that's kind of arrogant to say, as if there's nothing more to do or learn in growing a culture that's going to help the organization be more effective in the long term. So that was interesting. I'll share that with you because it really was interesting to me.
Well, I think it's also a little scary because it is a case in which you're only as good as how you're operating today.
Yes.
And if you're talking about a culture, it's kind of a fancy term that we all use, but it gets down to how do you actually perform? And it's not the little posters you have up there, and it's not the fancy mission statement or whatever. It's actually, how does this thing translate into daily activities?
Yes.
And I think it's just like, it's very human. You can have somebody who's extremely smart in one area and who's kind of a dullard in another area. And I mean, we all fall into those categories. And it's same thing with organization. You say, okay, how did you handle this? Is it up to our standards? And if it isn't, how do we fix this?
Yeah. Oh boy. This brings up a lot of topics about that self-awareness you mentioned earlier. A great poster to put up might be in the boardroom or something is know thyself. And that some Stoic didn't Plato say that, or Socrates say it? Know thyself, because that's where self-awareness. If and I have a lot of room to grow in self-awareness. But yeah, even at this, at this time of my life. I sometimes I'd rather avoid it and introspection and all that. But I forget where I was going with this, but I think that a leadership group has got to recognize that there's still it's a daily thing. So you said it. You're building your culture every day with every conversation, with every interaction that people are having within that organization. And that's another thing that young man Shane Metcalf said. Culture is not this static thing. It's like life. You're either getting better or something's getting eroded through the interactions that you're having. It's almost a Zen thing, Michael. That's kind of the way I see it. It's like every interaction, is the culture improving? Are we living up to what we say we are, or not? And
absolutely.
Yeah. So
well, there's a great comment that management consultant and writer Susan Scott made, and she said, "You don't have conversations about the relationship. The conversation is the relationship."
Yeah. Did she write Yeah.
It's important.
Was she one of the fierce? Did she have fierce in the title of her job?
Yeah.
Her book?
Right.
Yeah. So what is something that the audience can implement today? And let's say we're on Friday, we're midday Friday, at least for me. So let's say Monday morning, Michael. What's something that the audience can implement on Monday morning that could make a difference in their organizations or in their own leadership ability or style?
Well, I would give a number of things. Naturally, the introspection is really important.
Ooh.
What I notice as well is, and I see this particularly with my coaching clients, I like to find out what their strengths are, because their problems are usually hidden inside the strengths.
Oh God, yeah.
And they don't realize it's a problem because they think it's a strength. And I'll give you some examples. I knew this one executive who was brilliant at analysis, and he was so brilliant at analysis, he would not make a decision.
Wow.
And he was always getting additional information, and you had to say, listen, you've got to move on this. Another executive, charismatic, sort of guy, comes in the room, sucks all the oxygen out. He's a fascinating person, but he was so charismatic, as he put it, he said, my staff is becoming dependent upon me. They're deferring way too many decisions to me. So what I'd say is it's really important to identify your strengths and then say, if this strength is taken to an extreme, or maybe even if it isn't, what sorts of negatives could it contain? Which items do I need to watch out for? Because those things can be cloaked. And it is really important as well, I'd say, there's a great line by Theodore Levitt when he was editing Harvard Business Review. But he said, in working with people over the years, what he noticed is that many people tend to look at the world through a mirror and not a window.
Oh God, yeah.
And we all do that at times, and we're having to have this almost out-of-body experience to say, okay, how am I operating? What am I doing right now that can be a problem? And so that introspection is key. And it's interesting. One of my favorite mission statements is the Phoenix Fire Department.
Okay.
And Phoenix Fire Department is often regarded as, if not the best, but one of the best fire departments in the world. And their mission statement is prevent harm, survive, be nice.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
Wow.
And it struck me that this one fire chief who was legendary in the department mentioned one time, he said, in all my years, I have never gotten a letter from a citizen praising the caliber of our fire engines. He said, when I get letters, they talk about how nice our firefighters are. And, it gets back to a lot of these soft skills.
Yeah, soft skills are really not soft skills at all. They're like crucial, and you're not going to get any hard stuff done without them. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I need you to agree with me, Michael.
Yeah, I'll tell you if I think you're crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
which is,
Uh,
as a coach, you do that occasionally.
yeah, you have to tell people you're crazy. You're missing it.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I pick up from your blog posts that you have the opportunity in your work to sit within groups of people. I'm going to let's just assume they're teams of some sort that need to work together. And you're an astute observer of dynamics in those rooms. And what are some thoughts that you might share that can help a leadership group become more cohesive, more aware of themselves, but more aware of the strengths and weaknesses that are affecting that team? Is there something that top executive should be doing regularly with his or her team to keep that almost, keep the dynamic in the room from wanting everybody's going to agree with the top person, or they're going to start they're going to start taking their swords out to each other and one-upping each other. And you must see all that nonsense within the meetings that you might be invited to help. What are some things that a good executive leader of a leadership team could and should be doing regularly with that team? Is there something that comes to mind?
Sure. The three values that I push and nudge on, and as you know, you do a lot of nudging, are open, honest, and supportive. And openness, I think, is vital because you see so many organizations where they're not open.
Right.
And in fact, there's a great Polynesian term, mokita, and mokita means the truth that everyone knows but no one speaks. And that is the issue. When are you going to get things out on the table? The people, they sometimes worry about conflict. Conflict itself is not a problem if it is handled professionally. What you really need to worry about is when it goes subterranean, when it's
Yes.
hidden away. And so it's extremely important for leaders to create an environment and sustain an environment that is open, honest, and supportive, where people, if they have a problem, they're going to say, hey, we need to talk about this. Let's go get a cup of coffee, whatever, get this out on the table. And I'd say as well, in looking at groups, and whenever I go to meetings, this is something I try to zero in on. I want to, of course, listen to what is said.
Yeah.
But I also want to listen for what is not said. And just sit there and think, what was not mentioned? Who did not speak up? But which topics did they gloss over? And perhaps rather than worrying about dissent, they need to worry about rapid agreement.
Yes.
And you see that too many times. They get all pumped up about, oh yeah, let's do this and do that, and they haven't quite thought it through. So it's fascinating, and of course it's very complicated. As you well know, whenever you're dealing with people, you are dealing with very complicated critters. I mean, these people have just a variety of issues, and getting a team to work together is not something that you just fix.
Yeah.
It's something you continually maintain. In fact, what I tell my clients is, think of your organization as a farm in the middle of a jungle. If you don't maintain that, the jungle is going to grow over the farm. The trails will disappear. And so you have to have this very active, energetic approach of maintaining the basics. And that is an item I would stress. It is, these organizations and individuals don't get into trouble because they failed to do something very exotic. They get into trouble because they failed to do the basics.
Yeah.
The basics are not simple, but they're basic.
Yes, and that's kind of what my takeaway from this exchange here is a little bit is that when you see, so I think what you're saying is that that executive leader has got to be very clear on his or her basics for the
Yes.
team. Decide what those are going to be for them, and of course you're going to incorporate all the best thinking, if you will, about
Hmm.
leadership and how organizations work. But I think sharing the basics with their team, like a gentleman, I got inducted onto an HR chapter, SHRM chapter, in our local community here, and today we had our first strategy meeting, and the gentleman said, we're going to make our meetings, you know, quick, meaningful, productive. And if you miss two, I'll ask for your resignation.
Hmm.
And it's like, right on. And he goes, any problems with that? And everybody goes, no problem at all. We volunteered for this. So that was cool to hear this guy. Anyway,
The
yeah.
question I would have would
Hmm.
be, if your absolute best performer misses two meetings, are you asking that person for a resignation?
Yeah, great. See, this is what good consultants, this is what guys like you bring up, those things, that those principles about equity and
Hmm.
consistency. You live and breathe it, and I loved that. Great question. Great question. So let's move on. From all your experience, what's the most this is going to be tough for you, because you mentioned in your bio 40 years, my people.
Hmm.
From all your experience, what's the most valuable free tip you can give?
Wow.
I
Okay.
know.
There are a lot of them to think about. We've been talking about openness. I
Hmm.
would say one free tip, and I get into this because I do teach classes on ethics and I consult on ethics on occasion. And the big problem on ethics isn't so much right versus wrong, it's right versus right. Because right versus wrong, that's easy, choose right. But what do you do when you have, say, candor or honesty conflicting with caring?
Mm.
And one of the things
Hmm.
I would say is when you have that choice, choose honesty, choose candor.
Okay.
Because too many times we hide our true feelings and we say, well, I'm being caring or I'm being very sensitive. And
Mm.
you'll see teams and organizations where they have not had a candid conversation in years. And so, that's an important item. Get it out on the table, deal with it.
Wow. Oh man, that was just, one free tip: honesty v caring. You know, comparing them, go for honesty.
Yeah,
Wow.
because
Woo.
sometimes you just
Because
have to
they're
give it
both
a
they're
second.
both virtues, right? They're
Mhm.
both virtues.
Yep,
Wow.
absolutely.
Cool. Um, how can people learn more about Michael Wade, your work, and do you have a free resource to give if anybody wants to get something from you for free?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm in business, but I do naturally. I do a lot of speaking and give a lot of free advice out there. And I'd say go to my website at execupunditconsulting.com,
Mm-hmm.
one of the longer website addresses. And of course, you can also go to the blog, execupundit.com. But for more about my practice, execupunditconsulting.com. And I give some advice and perceptions there. Of course, I do on the blog hand out a lot of free advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy hearing from people. I like to
Okay.
talk to them, and I'll tell them, whether or not I could be of assistance. And it is, and I'm sure you notice this in your consulting practice as well. You want to have a good fit. I do
Yes.
not want to take on a client and in the back of my mind wonder about whether or not I can help them. If I'm
Right.
going to take them on, I want it to be very much let's win-win on this thing,
Mm-hmm.
get this thing together. But it is a case in which it does help to have another opinion. And that's, I think, one of the biggest advantages of consultants, in that, you know, you can see the picture better because you're not inside the frame.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
not so close to the action that you're missing things. And we're dealing with very bright people.
Yeah.
And they are achievers. They're people who have gotten a lot done, and they are justly proud of that. And yet, what I notice is that the people who tend to be most effective periodically check out their practices, they check out their assumptions.
Fantastic. I'm going to close with allowing you the last words. So the last words are yours, Michael Wade.
Well, I have been stressing candor a lot, but what I would say to people is take care of one another. It's a very tough world out there, and you can work alongside people for years and not have a clue of the challenges and the obstacles that they are facing. And so it is important to have that sensitivity in mind, but I'll just also emphasize an item that I stress with my clients, and it simplifies the world enormously.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important to do right than be right.
Wow.
Focus on doing right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't always be the person who has to be right. If we open ourselves up to, hey, I can make mistakes, somebody else might have a better idea, let's explore this together, you're focusing then on doing right, and you're not trying to take credit or trying to be infallible.
Michael Wade, this has just been marvelous. We probably went over kind of the length of time. I like to keep these, but man, thank you so much for what you've done with me here today, sharing your wisdom and the work that you're doing. And for our listeners, I will definitely include all of Michael's websites, his business website, his blog, underneath our podcast here today. So please, I would say go there, and then you'll understand. You will begin to appreciate the man named Michael Wade, who I think you have followers all over the world, Michael. And I'm really honored to know you and to have been I'm going to call you a digital colleague / guru. And I think you're that to a lot of people. And thank you again for the time you've given me today. And I hope to meet you and shake hands with you one day down the road. So thank you, Michael.
It is mutual. Thank you.
Awesome. So we'll see you down the road. Adios. Hi, it's Doug Fine again. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in to this Defined Engagement webcast. I'm in Augusta, Georgia, but I can travel anywhere to help your company amp up its engagement and motivate leadership to be just more effective with their people. So don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I can be reached at www.dougjfine.com or email me at doug@dougjfine.com, and we'll have a conversation, and it could lead to a partnership. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Take care.